According to official sources, the U.S. Navy destroyer USS Roosevelt and a Chinese Type 055 marine high-class cruiser came into close proximity earlier today in the Central Pacific after repeated radio warnings were ignored. Radar logs show that the Chinese ship closed distance to less than 500 yards before both vessels executed evasive maneuvers. Eyewitnesses aboard nearby commercial ships reported flashes over the horizon, followed by multiple explosions and heavy smoke rising from the ocean surface. Military analysts are now describing this as a potential flashpoint that could ignite a global crisis. Defense departments in both Washington and Beijing have gone into full alert while emergency meetings are underway at the Pentagon, and China's Central Military Commission reports indicate that communication lines between the two navies have been temporarily cut off as both sides are scrambling to secure their fleets and assess damage. Video footage obtained from reconnaissance drones shows massive plumes of smoke and fire coming from what appears to be the upper deck of the Chinese cruiser. One missile impact is clearly visible as the camera pans across the scene. U.S. Navy helicopters can be seen hovering nearby, possibly conducting rescue operations or defensive overwatch. This is not a drill, this is not an exercise, this is live combat unfolding across one of the most sensitive maritime corridors in the world. Sources inside the U.S. 7th Fleet have confirmed that the encounter began after a Chinese destroyer attempted to intercept a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft operating near international waters. According to initial reports, the Chinese Navy warned the aircraft to leave the area, but minutes later two U.S. ships entered to provide support. The standoff quickly escalated into a series of radar lock-ons and counter-maneuvers before one unidentified vessel fired the first missile at approximately 0932 local time. Global markets reacted within minutes. Oil prices spiked, defense stocks surged, and government officials across Asia began issuing emergency statements. Taiwan, Japan, and the Philippines have all increased their coastal defense readiness, and the United Nations Security Council has scheduled an emergency session to discuss the developing crisis. The world is now watching minute by minute as the Pacific becomes the epicenter of military confrontation between two nuclear powers. Eyewitness audio intercepted from open maritime frequencies reveals the chaos of the moment. A U.S. Navy officer shouting coordinates, another voice confirming missile launch, and then static followed by an explosion echoing over open comms. Analysts say this level of transparency is unprecedented as both sides know their actions are being watched in real time by satellites, intelligence networks, and the global media. In Washington, the Department of Defense has issued a carefully worded statement confirming what they call a serious incident involving naval assets in international waters, but refused to provide further details. The Chinese Foreign Ministry meanwhile has accused the United States of violating sovereignty and has demanded an immediate withdrawal of all American forces from what it calls its operational zone. Tensions have reached an all-time high. To understand the gravity of this event, we need to look back at the long-standing disputes in the Pacific region. The South China Sea has been a point of contention for over 2 decades, with overlapping territorial claims from China, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. The United States has consistently supported freedom of navigation operations, arguing that international law protects open access to global shipping routes. China, on the other hand, claims large portions of the sea as historical territory, building artificial islands and installing advanced missile systems over the past few years. Tonight that decades-old tension has exploded into live warfare. The first confirmed casualty reports indicate at least one Chinese vessel sustained major damage, while the USS Roosevelt has suffered structural hits to its radar systems but remains operational. Naval analysts are calling this a controlled engagement, meaning both sides are striking selectively to avoid full escalation, but with missiles in the air and ships ablaze, the situation could spiral out of control within minutes. In an emergency meeting, the President of the United States has ordered all Pacific Command assets to move to DEFCON 2, the second highest state of military readiness. The U.S. Navy carrier strike groups operating nearby have repositioned closer to the incident zone, including the USS Nimitz and USS Abraham Lincoln, both capable of deploying full-scale air response within minutes. Pentagon sources confirmed that electronic warfare units have also been activated to jam potential hostile targeting systems. Meanwhile, in Beijing, state media has gone on full alert, reporting that the Chinese Navy acted in self-defense after U.S. forces violated a declared exclusion zone. Their statement reads, quote, "The People's Liberation Army Navy will not hesitate to defend China's maritime sovereignty and national dignity," unquote. That message has been echoed across Chinese social media, where nationalist sentiment is surging rapidly. Within minutes, the story has become the top trending topic worldwide. Back in Washington, U.S. intelligence officials are analyzing intercepted signals showing Chinese fleet reinforcements moving from Hainan Island southward at high speed. Experts fear this could mark the beginning of a larger confrontation if both sides continue forward without diplomatic restraint. The U.S. Secretary of State has reportedly reached out to multiple allies requesting emergency consultations with Japan, Australia, and the UK as part of a rapid response coalition. At sea, the situation remains volatile. Eyewitnesses on a nearby tanker described the sound of missile engines and anti-air defenses lighting up the night sky. One crew member said, quote, "It was like watching two storms colliding over the ocean. The horizon just exploded with light," unquote. Naval rescue aircraft have been seen moving into the region under escort, while both sides appear to be attempting to retrieve personnel from damaged ships. Across social media, the footage is spreading fast. Short clips from civilian satellite feeds show flashes of light over the ocean waves. Thousands of people are sharing live radar screenshots tracking both fleets as they move closer to one another. The world is now witnessing an unfiltered view of modern warfare at sea. The combination of technology, media, and global connectivity has turned this naval battle into an international broadcast. Strategically, the Pacific has never been more important. Controlling these waters means controlling the world's most vital shipping lanes. Billions of dollars of trade pass through daily. Every move, every missile launch, and every maneuver is being calculated not only by military commanders but also by economists and political leaders, because what happens tonight could reshape the global order for decades to come. Back on U.S. soil, protests have already erupted outside the White House demanding immediate escalation, while others call for a show of force. The American public is divided between fear of war and the demand for strength. Political analysts say this confrontation could redefine not just military policy but the very balance of power in the Indo-Pacific region. Satellite imagery released moments ago shows a 60-mile stretch of the Pacific scattered with debris trails from earlier missile exchanges. Infrared scans indicate multiple heat signatures still active, meaning fires are continuing to burn aboard at least two vessels. Chinese emergency response ships are now moving in, but U.S. Naval Command warns that any unauthorized approach could be seen as an act of aggression. Experts are calling this the most dangerous moment between the US and China since the Taiwan Strait crisis decades ago. Yet even as calls for restraint grow louder, neither side appears ready to back down. Military analysts say both countries are now engaged in a high-stakes test of resolve and perception. Whoever blinks first could lose not just face, but strategic dominance over the Pacific. In a late-night statement, the United Nations Secretary-General urged both powers to immediately cease hostilities and open direct communication channels. However, diplomatic efforts may already be too late, as field reports confirm that at least 3 additional warships have joined the combat zone. Radar data shows heightened activity, suggesting both navies are reinforcing their positions rather than retreating. As dawn breaks over the Pacific, the scene is one of devastation and uncertainty. Thick columns of smoke rise from the ocean while aircraft circle overhead. Search and rescue operations continue, but danger remains every minute this engagement continues increases the risk of accidental escalation. One misfired missile or misinterpreted radar signal could trigger a regional or even global conflict. Intelligence insiders say private communication between U.S. and Chinese defense officials has resumed in a limited capacity, suggesting that both sides may be attempting to contain the incident and prevent further loss of life. The situation remains fluid and tense. For now, this remains the world's most dangerous flashpoint, a reminder that the line between peace and war can be crossed in seconds. The Pacific Ocean, once a symbol of global trade and connection, has tonight become a theater of live combat between the most powerful navies on Earth. Stay tuned for continuous updates as the story develops. This is a live breaking report from the Pacific Crisis Zone, where the ocean itself has become a battlefield and the balance of global power is being tested in real time.